This is the best kept secret in the city of Miami. There are so many people who say that they didn't know this building was here.
This was where Black people actually had an opportunity to stand and really assume responsibility for their community. Here at the City of Miami Black Police Precinct Courthouse Museum, I feel like this building in itself, now that it's even a museum and it's only one that's in its nation too, that exists, and that's only due to the push and the effort of retired law enforcement officers who worked out of this building. They saw a need to not have this building be demolished and turned into a parking lot.
I worked out of the precinct, this building here, for about 5 or 6 years. I became a policeman on a dare. My buddy had seen in the papers that the city of Miami was hiring Black police officers. So he came to me and said, let's go down and sign up. I said, not me, no way. So he said, no, you just chicken. Said, no, I'm not. So I went on to become a police officer.
Lieutenant Archie McKay is a gem to not just to this precinct, but to our community as a whole. I think he is the oldest living City of Miami police officer. And now at 98, he'll come in and he'll offer special, very, very special tours.
My purpose of coming mostly was to give tours to people. And that was a joy, a pleasure. Now, all I want to do is to get the word out through the media, through whatever way you can, that this museum stands here with information about Negro policing.
So when you come into the museum, you typically always will start at the booking area of the museum, which gives individuals an opportunity to hear about the influence and how this building came to be. Then you walk into what we call our roll call area of the museum, which is really where those Black officers had their administrative desk, where they would put their uniforms. They had lockers. You will also see the jail that is original to the building. And then you come to the courtroom, which was presided over by Judge Lawson Thomas. This institution, this building, this space, these stories represent somewhat of a challenging time for Miami and across the world. Segregation was at an all-time high in all aspects of the United States, preventing Blacks from having the same equal opportunities as whites. And the city of Miami in 1896 decided they wanted to become a chartered city. And there were not enough white men who were interested in chartering the city of Miami at the time. They went to the Black community and they got 162 of them to commit to signing the charter for the city to become the city of Miami. As a result of that, many promises were made, many were not kept. Black communities were not feeling safe, they were not being protected. It was the work and effort of Dr. Ira P. Davis and several other community activists who stood up and said, listen, we want to be able to have officers that are working in our communities, that look like us, that trust us, that want to protect us. In 1944, the city of Miami swore in their first 5. By 1950, we saw the 5 officers turn into 51 officers. And this building was erected as the only one that really carried the conversation of both booking, jail, and courthouse. Although this building was considered the Black police precinct, it was still supervised by whites.
Back then, they didn't train Black police out. It was OJT, on the job training. That's when I learned that part of the job was to interact with people. That's when I really fell in love with the work. We only worked in the colored section of the town. At that particular time, we only had 3 areas that we lived in. That was Coconut Grove area, Overtown area, and Liberty City. We could only arrest Black people. We couldn't arrest no white people unless there was a felony committed in our prisons. Courtrooms were segregated. We had our own courtroom here in this building, and you had a Black judge.
It wasn't uncommon that you would see officers walking the beat. You know, that means walking around the street. You might see them riding horses or riding a bike. You know, they weren't given a car right away. They didn't see a car until the late 1950s. They were given a bicycle to ride. So things like that really made these officers more personal. You know, one of the key things, and I love to bring up when I'm providing tours, is that these officers were not allowed to wear their uniforms outside of duty. So a lot of that made them humanized. I often ask individuals like Lieutenant McKay and Chief Dixon and Otis Davis, who are still with us, what was it like, you know, living in a Overtown during that time? And they would always remind me that we knew about the segregation, but we didn't really have to endure it or experience it at the level unless we went outside of our community, because everything we needed was within our community.
Overtown was really familiar with me because I lived in Overtown. It made the job easier because you knew people, you knew the suspects, parents. We could talk to them, and if they were willing, they would either bring them in or have them to come in.
And so from 1950 to 1963, these Black officers really truly served the community in the best way they knew, right, in the best way they could. Here at the museum, I have made a personal effort to remain connected to the City of Miami Police, whether it be through the reserves or through activities and events. And so as you have new officers come in and go through the academy, they are essentially indirectly required to go through this building so they can learn about the history, because often many, if not the majority, of the new current officers that we do have coming on the force would not have been able to serve out of the white precinct. They would have been here in this precinct, you know, because they're either Latino or they're from another country. And so having a relationship with the police department, we're trying to create a way that we are looked at as almost like a pre-screening for individuals who are interested in going into the practice of law enforcement or becoming lawyers. When people come to this museum, I'm not asking them to reminisce about the past, but I'm asking them to reflect on how the past can influence the future decisions that we make. Can we consider getting back to a place where people who are patrolling and protecting our communities and serving our communities are people who have vested interests in the communities that they're patrolling and protecting and serving?
I love this place. And I do whatever I can to make this place a historic building forever.